I'm Jake. I can skate. And just think, next year, after we've played this many preseason games, the preseason will be over. Unfortunately, this year, we still have half of camp remaining. But, on into Friday, we had the large swath of cuts that I was expecting before we head into the second half of the preseason. And anybody that's been really closely following camp shouldn't really be surprised at any of the cuts we saw. So let's get into it. For forwards, we have Andrew Basha. He'll be heading to the Wranglers. And he's going to be very interesting to follow. I think some people were expecting a little more from him in camp than we got. However, I think, like Connor Zary, he's going to benefit amazingly from a year in the AHL on a very skilled team, and that will do nothing but good for his development next year. Parker Bell and Lucas Siona, they've been journeyman Wranglers for the last couple seasons. They will be again. They're going to be important pieces for that team. So will Martin Ferk. He's probably wearing a letter, I would imagine, for the Wranglers when that season starts. Alex Gallant, Carter King, David Cilia, and Carter Wilkie will be bottom of the lineup players on a Wrangler team that's going to be very deep again. On defense, Simon Mack, Etienne Morin, Jeremy Poirier. I feel bad for Jeremy Poirier. He's been hammering away at this for a few years now. And I know certain green M&M types are going to be very disappointed to see him back with the Wranglers again. But tell me honestly, did you see anything from him that made him pop and deserve a longer look, like we've seen from guys like Matvei Gridin? I know he's a forward, but it's that kind of performance you need to have in order to stick around longer. And we just haven't seen it from Jeremy Poirier. The talent's there. He's going to be an offensive driver for the Wranglers again. If there's injuries, if there's some other trade or something that happens, I could see Jeremy Poirier up with the Flames this year. But honestly, I think guys like Solovyov and Kuznetsov have passed him in the depth chart. They play wildly different roles and styles than Jeremy Poirier does, but they're steady and they're reliable and they pop in what they do, and Jeremy Poirier just didn't really. And then in goal, Connor Murphy and Arseny Sergeyev. I am slightly surprised Owen Say outlasted Arseny Sergeyev. I think any of these goalies are going to be in a backup battle with whoever out of Ivan Prosvetov or Devin Cooley doesn't win the Flames backup battle. The loser of that battle is going to be the starter with the Wranglers. And then it'll be between Connor Murphy Arseny Sergeyev, and probably Owen Say. I'm almost certain for who the backup with the Wranglers is going to be. And with that, I must say, huge props to Owen Say. He took his game opportunity and ran with it. This is what I'm talking about. He was extremely solid when he came in relief for one period and kept himself in the mix. I still see him going down to the Wranglers eventually because I certainly don't see him as ahead of Devin Cooley or Ivan Prosvetov, but that could change depending on how the Wranglers season goes. Notably, still in camp on defense, as I've stated, are Kuznetsov and Solovyov, in addition to, of course, Zane Parekh. Zane Parekh's gonna make the team. If he doesn't, we're doing this incorrectly, because he looks absolutely NHL ready. Honestly, I'd rather see Ilya Solovyov than, say, Jake Bean. And I know a lot of people really like Jake Bean. I just don't see much there that somebody like Solovyov or even Kuznetsov, I like Solo a little better, but I don't see anything Jake Bean does necessarily that we can't get from Solo or Kuzi. I'd rather one of them make this team, and I'd also rather one of them make this team over Danil Mirmanov. That's probably a step too far and too much to ask, but I'd really love to see it. Notably, as I've stated, forwards surviving the first big round of cuts. Idar Suniev, Matvey Gridin are both still here. So is Sam Morton. He's been really good. Rory Cairns is knocking on the door, same as Sam Morton's knocking on. So that's going to be a really interesting battle moving forward. But a lot of the young forwards are pushing some of these older guys at the bottom of the lineup. They really got to get moving because we got half a cam to go and we got 15 more cuts to make to get down to 23. We're at 38 as of today. It's gonna get really interesting, and the Flames are a really interesting young team. I think there's some guys here that people aren't talking about enough. So, halfway through, this is where we sit. 38 players are still in camp. That's gonna mean a lot more teaching, it's going to mean a lot more systems, and it's going to mean higher expectations in the games that we play in. We, at this point, should not have any performances like we saw in Abbotsford. The 38 players going into the second half of camp are all pushing for jobs. So if we see another performance like we did in Abbotsford, that's going to hurt some of these guys' stock now. And with that said, I'll do the game preview for tonight's game in Winnipeg later today when we get lines and some other information. I'm very interested to see which of the young guys gets a chance. I can say right now that Devin Cooley is getting the full 60 in net today. I would argue it's probably his last chance to make a good, strong case to get ahead of Ivan Prosvetov, because I think Ivan Prosvetov's been very strong in the appearances he's had. Even in Abbotsford, he didn't get a lot of help. So I think in order to stay in this race, Devin Cooley's got a pitch gem today. But we don't have lines or pairings confirmed for tonight, so that'll be a shorter video probably later. But for now, do all the YouTube things, like, share, and subscribe. And as always, go Flames. You're halfway there. The preseason is way too long.